Okay, let's get started. Just a few things this evening. Remind you guys of what's due. I think you should have by this point watched this video on web services and requests. I think it's pretty good. Oh, it's this one right here, YouTube video, web services and requests. I have a little lecture on how to use an API and dial into somebody else's server, send the server commands, and it retrieves data for you. This one right here is really important too. Let's see, what is that one? That is going to the Pandas, Philo, and Jupyter Notebooks assignment is going to be released tonight, midnight. Okay. And then here, this one is really important, how to vertically stack data frames to finish the 18-point exercise. Okay, so you'll need to know how to do this. And once you understand this, how to stack them, concatenate them vertically, then you can finish your homework for the 18-pointer. What we're going to do tonight, just a little heads up, the instructions for the assignment are to go to NutrionIX, go to this URL, and there is a free version to get your API here. And can somebody explain to me what is an API and how does that work? Anybody got a good explanation? David, can you give us a quick explanation? Oh, somebody wrote in the chat. Let's see what they said. You guys just want to sit in and be passive, and the professor wants to ask questions. Huh? Can anybody give me just a high-level overview of what an API is? Application Programming Interface. Okay. I don't think anybody knows, or everybody just wants to be quiet tonight. Okay, so there's this thing called an endpoint, and you basically put it into your program with the commands that go with an endpoint, and you retrieve data from their server. And actually, you can execute code on their side too. So you can pass parameters, think of it as passing parameters to a function, and they will execute on their side. All right, so here's how it looks. You can download the snippets code, and it starts it off for you for the assignment. I did not put in all of the modules that you'll need. Whoops, let's see, here it is. The modules you'll need, but it is in the video. If you watch the videos, you import these modules requests, get your API ID and your key, you package it up. Here's the endpoint, and then there's a set of questions. Find the calories, serving weight in grams for these queries. And so you can put in, I had a peanut butter sandwich of bacon and escargot for lunch, and then it will calculate the calories. And you just can write it in text, and it will parse that text and come back with the calories. So that's what you're going to build a little application for. I think it's either exercise or calories, your choice. I think in the solution, I show you calories, and maybe in the assignment, I ask you for calories burned during exercise. So that, I believe, is due tonight. So Victoria, you had the question, do I need to get an API key? Yep, you can dial in and get an API key. You can take the screen capture and use this one too. Okay. Okay. So I do have some questions for you guys tonight. I'm going to do a little review. This will help you. And I hope you guys are more interactive than you've been so far. I have posed a question here. Please post your answer in the chat. I have set up an array or list here called N1. I converted it into a NumPy floating point array using np dot as f array. And then I said N2 equals N1. So I have two of these. So the question is, and using NumPy vectorization in one line of code, subtract the n+1 elements of the N2 array from the N1 array, and then calculate the mean. And that all can be done in one line of code. Think about that for a little bit, and then if you have, when you have an answer, please post it in the chat. All right, what are the n+1 elements? Okay, so this is index 0, element 0, and this is index n+1. And so what I'm asking you to do is subtract all of these elements that are highlighted from all of these elements. So 2 through 8, subtract those from 1 through 7. The numbers, not the indexes. The indexes start, it's a 0 index, right? All right, does that make sense? Thank you for your question, Melissa. I'm sure everybody else is wondering the same thing. Okay, what did we learn about NumPy? Is that you can do vectorization, right? So I'm asking you to write a very simple line of code that subtracts elements of a NumPy array from a second array. You should be able to just, it should be very quick, or you're behind. Is anybody working on the problem? You just waiting for somebody else to do it? All right, we got somebody. Victoria, thank you. Let's try out our code. Do a little troubleshooting. Let's see if I can do this. Look at that. I can copy from the chat. Cool. Okay. All right. Let's walk through what she did. You took 1 to the end. She did a little slicing. So that means 2 through 8, right? And she subtracted it from N2. And we don't need to do the NP because we've already done that. So that's very close though. Then I asked for the mean. So we could have done NP mean like this. Now off the top of your head, you should know if I subtract this guy, 2 through 8, subtract that from 1 through 7, I should get 1, right? So let's run that and see. 1.0. Very good, Victoria. Thank you very much. Oh, Hope, you got it. I thought it was Victoria, but it was Hope. All right, excellent. Question 2. Read the data_5.csv file using pd.read_csv with all the parameters. Calculate the mean value of the IR left column. Okay. And then plot rows 10 through 300 of IRL infrared left columns. See if you can do that real quick. And amazingly, it's it's 2 lines of code. Well, it's actually 3 lines of code to calculate the mean as well. Okay, I think you guys remember. So we imported the pandas up here, right? And you remember that the command for reading data in, and I'm going to assign data to whatever data that I read. So it's pandas pd.read_csv, and then I have to give the file path. Now here's my little trick for finding the file path. You can go here. And then you can go to the file path here, see, I have data here. Then I can select the file, data file. Notice it's up here. And so, oh, I could just copy this guy over here. And then that is going to be my file. And then I want to pick off a data file. Okay. And the name, the way the data file is written is data_5.csv. So that's kind of a trick so that you never get the file path wrong. Okay. You just come over here and find the data file. It's in this folder and then copy that. Okay, let's try that. Let's run this code right here. See what happens. I'm going to run that over in the console. And we'll do data. Bam, you have the data. Okay, and it is a data frame, right, with columns and indexes. Now, the data file has a column called index, but this is actually the index that's auto-generated when you read in the data file. That's this guy right here, okay? That's a little confusing, but that's the way the data is loaded in. All right, David, just jamming on it. You got the mean. Cool. All right, so if we want to do the mean of this guy, let's take David's code and test it. Copy it from the chat. Nice job. I think that looks right. Now notice if we do notice that he input the correct space there because the column name, let me show you, the column name actually has a space in it, right there. We put that in there properly. And let's see, I think I gotta put the correct seed in there. Let's see if that works. It's kind of tricky. Okay, and let's just go ahead and print out that. Right. Now I'm going to do a shortcut. Let's just see if that works. There you go. There's the mean. All right, if we were to plot it, I've already loaded in matplotlib, and I'm going to give it this prefix is PLT, right? You guys know how that works. And let me write that code out here real quick. And let's just take 50 to 200. If we run that, I go over to plots, there is what the data looks like. And that is the heart rate of the cow that we had the sensor on. Can anybody describe to me how to calculate the beats per minute? Anybody have an idea how to do that? Just looking at this data, can you give me an estimate of what the beats per minute would be? Or yeah, the heart rate is? You have to know the sampling rate. We were collecting data at 100 samples a second. So that's a clue. So let's say this is 90 and this is 140. Maybe even make it easier. This is about 90, the 90th sample. And this one is about 140. So that's 50 samples for one period. All right. One period is 50 samples. We're sampling at 100 samples a second. So in 1 second, we had one period, or 1/2 a second, we had one period. And so in 1 second, we had 2 periods, 2 beats per second, 60 seconds. That's 120 beats per minute. All right, you guys will be calculating heart rates and beats per minute in a later project, okay? Let's see. So that's a little review of pandas, a little review. Now, how would you find a function? Well, let's say I wanted to find what was the max value. How would I do that? So you can do directory, and then I can do data, and it gives you all the methods, right? There's all the methods that we can. So there's a bunch of methods for data frames, right? So if we wanted to find the max, we can find the mean or median of a column of data. All right, you following me? So in this case, find the index of the max value in column IR. Ooh, that sounds a little bit tough, but nah, it's not that bad. We could say print, and then let's see, data is the name of our data frame. We want to find IR, find it in the column called IR lefty, right? Lefty. I think that's a capital L. Ooh, that would have been a mistake. So I got the capital L. And let's search between indexes 50 to 200. And then I want to find the max value. And it's a method, so I need for it to execute, I need to put those parentheses in there. And let's hope that that works. Let's see if that works. All right, that gave you the max value, 23,419. So let's do it. Let's do a little magic. We do that right now. We have interactive plots.
Why did you do it between 50 and 200 for finding the max value?
Yeah, you're on to me. Okay, I'll show you why I did that. Okay, let me finish this. Run this one more time. Let's just change it. Let's go from 0. And I know this data set. Where is my little chart here? I know this data set. Oh, I thought that it had a discontinuity. It has a bad data point at data point 1 to 2. It looks like it doesn't. It looks like it's fine. I was just skipping over the data points that were 0. Victoria, if that was you that asked the question. I knew what the data looked like. All right, so I did the little magic command there, %matplotlib, and now I have an interactive plot. If I'm going to come up, ooh, it's giving me the Y and X index right there. So what? 23, 3, 4, 1, 5, 9. We're close to the max. There it is. Okay, and then the index is about 178, 179. So how would we find the index? Go back to it. We can change that, and now we'll give the index of the max value. And let's do that again. 178. All right, so that shows you how to use a few of these tools. A little reminder on how vectorization, right? Took one array and I subtracted it from the other array. I read in my pandas data, plotted the results. If we want to look, so that was actually, that's called the photoplasmograph, the pulse oximetry data. So when you go in the emergency room and they put a pulse oximeter on your finger and they measure the oxygen level, you can also get the heart rate out of that. Actually, I took my son when he was like 6 years old on Christmas Day to the emergency room because he was we didn't know he was asthmatic and he had an event on Christmas Day. We took him down, they put a pulse ox on his finger, they measured his SpO2, his partial saturated partial pressure of oxygen, and it was like 90, 89, it's supposed to be 100. And so we were a little bit worried, took his heart rate. So that's an example of that. All right, so if we wanted to just change this out and we wanted to look at the accelerometer data, we could pull off a new column. I just happen to know that the column, it's called accelerometer X, but remember I could do data columns here. Now this is a property, not a function, right? Let's see, did I get that right? Is it a property? Yeah, it's a property, so I don't have to put the parentheses in. And let's pull off ACCY and see what ACCY or X looks like. Pull off that guy. Oh man, we are slinging some code tonight. Go. Made a mistake. And let's plot a little bit more data this time, 50 to 400. Let's see what the accelerometer looks like. Okay.
Instead of using the name of the columns, could you use the index of the columns, or would that not work?
Well, the index is just going to be one row. So one row is, like row 10 is the index.
Okay.
That makes sense? Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So if we go back and we looked at our data, right? Let's look at one of these. It's taking a while for my Excel to launch here. Went into my West Texas voice. I'll have to come back to my professor voice now. Okay. All right, so there's all the data. So we just peeled off like this data set right here, right? We wanted to plot that over here. We could do that. Insert, do all these little steps. And let's just see what it looks like. Okay. I went from 1 to 41 on accelerometer Y. Somebody asked earlier about what was the problem. See, these have some really low values to start out with. So I was trying to avoid those low values. And that is just, it's kind of an error in the way we collected the data. So let's do that again. Let's insert another one of these guys to show you what the data looks like. So that's what I was trying to avoid, is just not get those first data points right there. Okay. Okay, that's what the data looks like. And I think we're doing okay here. Let's do this. Okay, if you want to get rid of all of your charts, you can just do one by one, or you can do them all right there, okay? No, I didn't plot. If you guys have used variables, you can come over here and use the variables on the variable explorer. Can't remember if I had them. And go back up, run data columns, validate its accelerometer Y. Accelerometer Y. Data. We calculate the mean, but it didn't plot this time. Let's try one more time. All right, I'm flummoxed. Does anybody see my error? Because it's actually doing the calculation for the ID max, calculating the mean, but it's not plotting. Let's go back and the one that we know that works. Infrared. Oh, I probably have a typo in there somewhere. Plot. Plot. Oh, I know what it is. It's plotting externally. It's plotting over here in my external plot, not on my console plot. So if you continue to plot over and over again, it will just plot on the same graph. And so let me stop that and we'll go back to, this is the one that we wanted to plot. All right, so we did a little troubleshooting there. We said, oh, we were told it to use a floating graph instead of using the console. So let's do that again. So that's what the accelerometer data looks like. So that's kind of noisy data, right? Noisy, bouncing around. So this represents how the animal was moving in the Y direction of the accelerometer. And what we're going to do is calculate the magnitude. And there's some kind of heuristics we can use. The threshold we can use is if the animal is moving more than a magnitude of 0.1, we were going to say that the animal is moving too much. And we're going to normalize this data, then calculate, excuse me, we're going to calculate the magnitude, normalize it to 1, and then if it's moving 10% of the normalized value, we're then going to say the animal's moving too much, and we're not going to capture the heart rate because these optical sensors is kind of like the Fitbit or the Apple Watch that you have, is if you're moving a lot, the accuracy of the heart rate and the measurements on the watch are not as good. So that's basically what we're going to do in project 1. All right, I'm starting to kind of ramble a little bit. I'll stop and see if there's any questions about the homework. That's all I had planned for this evening, was about 30 minutes, kind of a review of some of the stuff we've looked at. The exam is in a week. So we have 1 week. You have several assignments worth points. We have an 18-point assignment due Monday. And if we were to open that up and take a look at it, what does that look like? It is due on the 20th. And what you will do is follow this rubric. Import, create a function, use a docstring to comment and document the function, use pandas to read data in, write a function to use a string manipulation to change the file on each iteration of the loop to read all the files from 5 to 163. Append each file's data into one single data frame so that you can operate on the columns. Return the data frame variable for analysis from the function. Calculate and print to the console. So accelerometer X column for all data files. Plot accelerometer X column. For all data files, and plot a constant horizontal threshold line at 10% above and below the mean of the accelerometer X. Labeled axes. I'm getting a little sophisticated there on the plots. Nice. Assume that the files are in the .csv format. The function should have this structure. Read underscore data files, put in a file prefix, a start file number, and end file number. So you can read any group of files you want and it returns the data. There you go. So that's what we're building up to for Monday. So I would suggest you kind of get ahead of this and ask questions on Friday, okay?
When will we have access to this assignment?
It's already available. Available from March 30th, 31st, first day. Published. So let me go back just to double check. Ooh, there you go. Available right now.
Thank you.
I have to publish the whole module. Sorry about that. Oh, we don't want that one published. We don't want the midterm published yet. We can do that one right there. Make sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the solution to this is going to be available on June 21st. What is this guy? That's the solution. Okay, so yep, that's available now. And so we're going to prep and do the midterm exam the week of the June 20th. And I call this kind of putting it all together because you have to use functions, you have to use numpy, you have to use pandas, you have to use all the things that you have learned so far to develop this application. Okay. All right, and then we will start the following week on the project, or on Friday of next week, we'll start project 1. I'll give you an intro to that. All right, that's what I have for this evening. Anybody have any questions?
Yes, I have a question over the nutrition assignment. I got my app ID and key, but I know on the video you used the endpoint URL, but how did you actually find that? Because it was on just a document that you had open.
Yeah, it was a document. It's basically it's documented. Let's see if we can find it over here. I think all I did was I had to search for it. API, NutrionIX, NutrionIX API endpoint. I'll do this right back to the same place. Get your key. There it is right there. It's in these documents. So here's the endpoint. That help?
Yes, thank you.
You can look through the manuals now. The endpoints. It's really kind of cool, right? Because the natural language works on. You can have a sentence for what you had to eat, or you can have a sentence on the type of exercise. I swam, a kilometer, jogged 3 miles, and bicycled 20 kilometers, and it would come back and tell you how many calories you burned. And the setup basically is you give it in the header file, you give, for nutrition, you don't have to do it, but for the exercise API, you give it your weight and your height and if you're male or female and the header information, okay? And that's covered in the video. Can't remember if I asked for nutrition or exercise in the homework. You can do either one, it's fine. Let's see, where's it at? Let's go back. Questions and implement the code described in the comments. Okay, so I put it in, whoops, sorry. I put it in, that's the solution. I have the assignment. Downloaded it, let's see. I didn't download the assignment. Do that real quick. Go to that. Okay. Oh yeah, so I did it for food. I didn't do it for exercise. And the example that I showed you, the lecture video, is for exercise, and it requires a little bit more information than the headers key, because to calculate the calories burned, you need to know the weight and the age and the sex of the person that you're submitting it for. So this is a little bit easier. Okay, any more questions? All right, you guys have a wonderful evening. I'm going to hang out for a little bit longer if you just want to ask me kind of one-on-one. And if not, you're free to go. Thanks for showing up tonight.